Too many to choose from. And I have yet to create a blues progression for this lesson, so may or may not do that right now. We'll see. Sound is good? Oh, that's good. Yeah, I already walked to coffee and it was, I got hot walking to coffee and it said it was 63, but it was definitely warmer than that in the sun. And David Lynch said, I guess David Lynch is in LA. All right. Coffee doesn't taste the same after brushing your teeth. Still not happy with my tuning. So, yeah, definitely out of tune. The name of the lesson is 3 Mixolydian Scales for Blues. Basically, what it is, we could call it is the 1 Mixolydian, the 4 Mixolydian, the 5 Mixolydian. That being the Mixolydian scale over when the 1 chord is being played in the blues, the 4 Mixolydian when the 4 chord is being played, and the 5 Mixolydian when the 5 chord is being played. Let's look at a blues progression real quick. We're going to add a text. Let's see. Okay, add text right here. All right. So I'm just going to kind of do a basic G7, C7, G7, G7, and then C7, C7, G7, G7, D7, C7, G7, D7. Okay, how do you like that? All right, so there's one way to play the blues. It's probably one of the most common ways, but each one of those chords represents 4 beats. So we have G7 for 4, C7 for 4, G7 for 4, G7 for 4, or you can think G7 for 8. All right. And then C7 for 8 beats, and then G7 for 8 beats, D7, C7, G7, D7. All right. So what we're gonna learn today, basically, and we've talked about the blues before. I think we messed around before in the key of E when I did blues basics. What we're gonna talk about today, we're gonna be in the key of G, interestingly, so the scale we learned, the scales we just spent the last couple weeks learning are diatonic scales in the key of G. Okay. Well, if you'll remember, we played G major scale, A Dorian, D B Phrygian, D, C Lydian, and then when we got to D, we did D Mixolydian. Okay, but ultimately, that's not what I wanted you to learn. I didn't want to teach a modes lesson, although I went there because I wanted to show you the different positions that you can play in the key of G major. That's what I wanted to show you. I wanted to show you that all of those scales are in the key of G major. Okay. Coincidentally, all of those scales were also in the key of A Dorian. Every one of those. This is A Dorian. If I start on A and play that. sorry. If I start on the B note in that G major scale, that's B Phrygian. Right? If I start on the C note, it's C Lydian. And if I start on the D note, that's D Mixolydian. And D Mixolydian is the Mixolydian scale we're going to use over the D7 chord. So essentially, you learned every D Mixolydian scale, every note in the D Mixolydian scale up and down from basically the first fret to the 15th fret. Okay? So all those notes that we learned all will work over that D7 chord. When I say they will work, there's some notes that'll sound better than others, and just like any other major scale. Anytime a note doesn't work, chances are, I guarantee if you go up one scale tone or down one scale tone, either or both will work when the scale tone doesn't work, if that makes sense. Okay, let me say some hellos. How many do we have here? Let's see, today's Friday. Wednesday was weird. We ultimately had 55 viewers at one point. I don't know what happened. Right about the hour point is when everybody starts showing up. All new people too. I don't know what YouTube is trying to do, but okay. So Bruce is here. Ed's here. Oh wait, David. So I missed somebody. Who's the top? No, Bruce, Ed, David, Ed, Roger, Denise. Hey, Denise. John's here from Louisville, Kentucky. Let's see. Bruce, how are you? Oh, you're busy. Good. Well, Bruce, good. You're busy. Keep you out of trouble. I've been pretty busy too. In fact, today's our anniversary. We kind of pushed the celebration to yesterday because I may go into the studio today to work on some stuff. So we'll talk more about that later. But basically, so that the thing up there is a blues progression, kind of. It's kind of a cheater way of writing it, I guess. Yeah, I gotta get rid of that delay. Huh. Oh, I know where it is. It's right here. Go away. Ooh, it got a lot louder. All right, let's go to the amp and turn it down. I'm not as familiar with this software. Still loud. Still probably too loud. I don't want to distort the live stream. And I can show you open chords. If you can't do bar chords for this, that's not hard. So let's see. Let me just turn this down here a little bit. Hopefully that won't be too loud. Okay, so the three chords: G7, C7, D7. So the way I'm fingering G7 here, I'll give you a bar version and an open version, okay? And I'll put them here in the chat, and I may have to do that more than once as people join in, but. So there's G7. You can do G7 this way with a bar. So basically, make a G major bar chord at the 3rd fret and take off your pinky, so you can hear that F note. That's one G7. And then an open version of that would be that one. Totally legit. Good to know that it's there. But there's the G7, so that would be 3, 2, 0, 0, 0, 1. Okay. Oh, weird. Video and chat are 5 minutes off logging in. Oh, okay. So it's on your end. Okay. Julio, what's going on? Good to see you. Let's see. Okay, and then so the C chord, the C7, the bar one, would be X 3 5 3 5 3, or more the open version would be X 3 2 3 1 0, which, to be honest, isn't much easier than the bar chord one. So the C7 here, and again, there's 1,000 different ways you can play C7, but then there's hit this way, open. So if you know how to play C, add your pinky on the 3rd string, 3rd fret, and you get that B flat, which is what makes it a 7th chord. Which is a good chord to know, because you can actually mute the outside E strings and use it anywhere. So this one actually is a very usable chord. It's movable if you don't have open strings. Okay, and then the last chord is going to be that D7 chord. Okay, so D7 is going to be played this way, muting the outside strings. So D7, we played X 5 4 5 3 X, or XX 0 2 1 2. Okay, you think I got that right? So here's the D7 we're going to use, and here's another D7. Now, there's a reason why I chose these chords. The reason is I want you to stay in one position. That's kind of why we're going to learn 3 Mixolydian scales. See, if we only learned 1 Mixolydian scale, then when we got to C, we just go up here. And then when we go back to G, here. And then we go to D, we go up here. But the problem with that is that you're having to move too much. And you're going to be tempted to do the same licks. You're not going to really be pointing out, and none of the slight idiosyncrasies between the 3 different Mixolydian scales are going to be obvious to you, so you won't be able to make that obvious to your audience. Also, when everything's in one position, and which is nice. My hands are just waking up. When everything is in one position, you don't have to look at your hands. So if you're singing, if you're trying to make contact with an audience, if you're trying to connect with an audience, if you're singing backgrounds, or if you just want to close your eyes and go for it, you don't really have to. And again, because we learned the last few weeks all the G notes in the key. All the notes in the key of G up and down the neck. The same thing could be true. So in other words, I found a G Mixolydian scale here, a C Mixolydian scale here, and a D Mixolydian scale here. Consequently, I could find a G Mixolydian scale here, a C Mixolydian scale, and a D Mixolydian scale, all right in this range, okay? And then I could also find them all right in here somewhere, okay? And what that means is that no matter where I am on a neck, I can just be at home there and gravitate through chord changes. And before we were kind of talking more about playing overarching keys, with the progression that we did before, the E minor C G D. That was more just like, okay, here's a cool G pop chord progression. Let me show you some G scales. And so so that we just learned all the scales, all the notes in the key of G that would work over that, and then you had to make some slight changes. But with this, the problem with the blues progression is that technically you're at different points you're in 3 different keys. Okay, and not only that, you're not in the tonic of any of those keys, so you're actually building. And I'm sure John in Kentucky probably knows. But the fifth mode of any major key is going to be the Mixolydian. And so if we're using G Mixolydian for the G7 chord, which is what we will do, then technically we're in the key of C because G is the 5th of C. And if we're playing C Mixolydian over C7, which is what we're going to do, C is the 5th of F. So technically we're in the key of F major. But it does. There are times when it is helpful to think in a different mode. And John, you'd been asking me about that. Like, well, do you think in A Dorian? You know, were you thinking an A Dorian there? Or, but in these scenarios, yeah, it definitely doesn't hurt to think C Mixolydian when you're playing over a C7. Okay, and then obviously we can use C minor pentatonic, we can use C minor blues, we can use C major pentatonic, we can use C major blues. And then we can, C Mixolydian would be one of the scales. There's, a few other scales you can use. There's a pentatonic Mixolydian that I like. Maybe we'll talk about that at some point. Okay, so let me just look at here. We'll get some questions. Yeah, Bruce is moderating. Leo, I agree. Thank you, Bruce, for doing that. Bruce was busy on Wednesday. And yet the moderator couldn't get his audio and video synced. But I'm glad you rebooted, Bruce. Okay, John, happy anniversary. Thank you, John. What's your secret to marital bliss? Live in separate states? No, I'm just kidding. There's more than a couple divorcees up there, I know. So divorcees. It always sounds like a woman. Is that for a man too? Is it a divorced man a divorcee? Or is he a divorcer? Yeah, the questions. But yeah, secrets. Good sense of humor. Man, we committed to our kids. The reason we didn't buy a house is because there was never a real point that we both had real jobs at the same time. Full-time jobs. We homeschooled our kids in basically a 3-bedroom apartment, 2-bedroom apartment that we eventually added on an apartment to. We combined 2 apartments together in Pasadena. So we managed the building, and that helped a lot too. That allowed me to not have a big bill every month and allowed me to stay in the music business, which for me was my secret because just the career didn't show up right away. It took a long time. But I stuck with it. And that's another thing. My wife wouldn't let me give up on my dream. So even though she's not, we were just talking about this last night at dinner because we had dinner last night. And we're talking about how Emma, my daughter, is kind of a dreamer like me. and she's super practical. And if she hadn't been married to me, and she had Emma for a daughter, she would not know how to, believe in her, like Beth had to believe in me. So, I don't know. I think this is probably ash. Isn't that what swamp ash is what most tellies are made out of? Bruce, can you see the grain there and tell me? You can see the grain through the yellow. But I mean, realize when you're the marriage thing, realize you're a team. And one thing we did do, and in fact, I really try to encourage young couples to get in the habit of doing a date night. Now, we had no money. What we would do, we had 3 kids and no money, and what we do for date night is we would swap nights with another couple that had kids. So, they would come and hang out with our kids, bring their kids over, and all the kids would hang out together. And then we do the opposite on their date night. And so, say our date night was Friday night, and theirs was Saturday night or something like that. But and then we would go. There was this movie theater in Pasadena that would. It was $3 and you got to see 2 movies. And across the street was a Subway. So we'd spend $6 on a movie, and before that we'd go and get a large Subway sandwich and split it in a soda. And I think the total date night cost like $15. And we did it every week because in a marriage, there's going to be all sorts of seasons. There's all these different seasons, and you really aren't prepared for any of them. For one thing, the first year is the adjustment season. You've never lived with someone not like that before. If you had roommates before, it's not the same thing, obviously. So that's an adjustment. Then when you start to have kids and you're not sleeping, that's a huge adjustment too. And Beth was great at that because once she wouldn't let me get up in the middle of the night because I couldn't nurse them. She goes, "What's the point of you getting up? You go back to sleep. One of us has to be awake during the day, So she, And then there, then there's the A. And then when we were homeschooling, we didn't really, because when you're homeschooled, you don't really get that terrible teens thing going on. Our kids were all like already adults by the time they were 14. I mean, they could have a completely adult conversation with any adult. They weren't shy or timid or whatever. Alex was already doing session work at gigs at 15, 14 years old. Jack was doing high-level calculus and trigonometry at 14. Emma was already, getting involved in all sorts of crazy things. Art was her big thing early on, and fashion. And so they all were just kind of, but that's another season, and so you're not prepared for that season. You just don't realize. And then the season that we kind of went with taking care of parents, and then it's the season of when your kids are leaving the nest, and you don't really realize. I mean, I'm enjoying having the kids out of the nest, but a mom doesn't enjoy it at all. And so that's been tough on Beth, but I have to help her carry that burden. I have to be sympathetic. So you have to be sympathetic to each other, and oftentimes, at this point in a man's life, his career is starting to wane, and mine is doing the opposite, which I think is actually really, really good because I really, really appreciate it, So, yes, exactly. John, you got it. Yep. So essentially, we're going to be using three different Mixolydian scales. Consequently, we're going to be in three different major keys. And then okay, here's the thing: the D7, the relative major to the D Mixolydian is G major. So we already learned all the G notes. So all the notes that we learned the last 2 weeks will work over like I said, over that D7 chord. Though you've got Mixolydian scales already pre-built into all that. Now, we're not going to do that with each of we're not going to go up the neck necessarily. I might. It depends on how long I want to take this on. But me, I get sidetracked like on the marriage question. But a sense of humor is huge. Always have fun, if you know what I mean. One of the things that we met, we were both in ministry. So when you're in ministry, you're used to not making any money, and you're used to giving 100% of yourself. You're basically when you go into ministry, you're in your head, you're thinking, this is my life. My life is going to be in ministry, and I'm going to dedicate my life to the service of others. Well, when you get two people that have that same kind of, and I'll definitely tell you that Beth has far more ministry-minded than I am, but when you have two people that are in the space of giving 100% to other people, then that's going to be generally a fairly good successful union. So, and it doesn't necessarily have to be ministry, a Christian ministry of any kind. It could be just you're just dedicated 100%, and that's so for me that's I think one of the secrets. So, but I don't know. We got to finish the race first. Yeah. So, now the main thing, the biggest thing about playing the blues, and I talked about this when I talked about blues basics, is, and I wrote out those chords, but of course they're probably gone now. What I'm going to do is I'm also going to write out, I'm going to create a new, no, I don't know. Can I duplicate this? Will it let me grab this? No. Is there a duplicate here? Order, transfer, to property. No, I got a lot of things I can do. Okay, I'll just add a new one because I want to give you all the notes in the chords. I think that's. I've got a student. I've got a student. I have one video student. I just don't like teaching on the video. It's just. I mean, this is fine because it's just me talking. We're not interacting, but interacting with someone else can be kind of tough. Okay, so G7, the notes in G7 are G, B, D, F. Okay, those are the notes 1, 3, 5, 7. I can explain that in a second. The C7 chord, C, E, G, B flat. The D7 chord, D7, don't worry, I'll make it smaller, D, F sharp, A, and C. You almost probably prefer it this way, don't you? Because it's covering up that face. All right. So, what we have there, when you have a seventh chord, so a triad is 3 notes. A seventh chord is a triad plus 1 more note. A ninth chord is a seventh chord plus 1 more note. An 11th chord is a ninth chord plus 1 more note. And a 13th chord is an 11th chord plus 1 more note. So you got 7 notes in a 13th chord. And how many strings do we have? Now, I've never, even if you were a piano player, you would not play a 13th chord with 7 different notes in it, because that's not what really generally people mean by 13th chord. When you play 13, that's an example of a 13th chord. I've got a root, I've got a 7th, I've got a 3rd, I've got a 6th or 13th, and a 9th or 2nd. There's no 11th in there, there's no 5th in there. You start to eliminate as you get up in there. I mean, on 9th chord, I could do an E9 like this, and that does have literally a root, 3rd, 7th, 9th, and 5th. It literally has all 3 of those. But in the 7th chord, and in these 3 7th chords I showed you, the G7 chord like this, and like this, open. The C7 chord like this, and like this. Sorry about that distortion there. And then this one. And the D7 chord, that's just basically, I'm going to take the C7 shape and move it up here. Middle 4 strings only, or this D7, okay? Each of those chords have only 4 notes in them. Now, there may be some redundancy, like I'm playing 6 notes here, right? When I'm playing this bar chord. So I've got a G, look at that first chord, I got a G, B, D, F, okay? I've got a G, I've got a D, I got an F, I got a B. So literally, in the bottom 4 notes of this G7 chord, and this is technically a drop 2 chord, which we have yet to talk about. And I keep bringing, I haven't brought it up in a while, but I've said, I could do, I mean, I have, 50, 60, 70 lessons on drop 2 chords up on YouTube. It was like the first big series, it's the only big series I did. But basically, you've got all the notes you need right there in the bottom 4 strings. And then the last 2 strings, the D and the G up here, are redundant, okay? But ultimately, we only have, hey, iced coffee. We only have, ultimately here, we only have 4 notes with redundancies. Okay, so in a G7 chord, we have G, B, D, F. In fact, if you play that, it almost sounds like a bass line, right? Right? A common bass line. And that's 1, 3, 5, 6, 7, 6, 5, 3. So we're adding that 6 in there, which would be kind of a 50s rockabilly kind of, But that's actually 1 more note than the G7 up there. And you notice I went to the C7. And so if you take this, so let's play this together. Let's play this G7 arpeggio. And that's what it's called, not on classical guitar, but in electric guitar. When I say arpeggio, we are usually referring to playing all the notes in a chord in order. So G, then we have B right here at the 2nd fret on the 5th string, and then there's your D with the pinky, and here's your F right there. Okay, and you just made you played 1 note at a time a G7 chord. Okay, 1, 3, 5, and 7. And these chords, because they're all dominant 7th chords, is another name for them, but they're all 7th chords. They have the same formula. The first interval is a major 3rd, the next interval is a minor 3rd, and the next interval is a minor 3rd. So major 3rd, minor 3rd, minor 3rd. Don't worry. There won't be a quiz on that. But you'll notice the same thing's true here with the C7. That's a major third, because that's what a major triad, right? I mean major dyad, and then minor third, and then minor third. And the same thing with D7. Well, okay, so let's play the G7 again, arpeggio. G. All right, there's B, D, 5th fret on the 5th string, and then 3rd fret on the 4th string is F. And then we go to the C note, and we do the exact same shape. C, here's E, that's the 3rd, the 5th is here. Okay, now, to keep in this position, I'm not going to do D right here. We're going to start with D on the pinky. Okay, then F sharp is here, and then A, and then C. Yeah, don't worry, you're not gonna get a quiz on intervals. But that G to B is a major third interval, and G to B flat is a minor third. Okay. I am very tired today. I didn't sleep well at all last night. Stayed up too late. Had a lot of wine at dinner. And wine always gives me a headache. Let's see. Go cat go. Go cats go. All right. Afternoon. That's right. It's afternoon where you are. Soon to be. Now keep in mind on we move our clocks back an hour on Saturday night. So Dennis, do you do that too this Saturday? Are you moving your clocks? Because so what does that mean? It'll feel like 10 o'clock next Monday. It won't be. I told you the story about I got in trouble at work because I didn't set my clock back, or I didn't set my clock forward. It was in the spring. I didn't spring forward. I'd never done it before because I lived in Indiana. Where I lived growing up, we didn't do it, and they didn't. And my boss didn't believe me. And there was no Google or anything like that back then. They couldn't look it up. They had no way to prove myself. They just thought I was lying because I was an hour late to work. Yeah, I know, right? It gets crazy late. 9 a.m. Pacific time, yeah, and it'll stay that way. But we gain an hour, which means we move our clocks back an hour. So we get an extra hour of sleep on Saturday night, which is always good. I always like that. But I hate it when we lose sleep. I hate it when Easter is on the Sunday morning before you, because you're already getting up super early for Easter services, and then you lose an hour. That's the worst. Ugh, I hate that. I think it's happened a couple times. Now, I've talked about this before. How do I want to do this? That's not very swingy. What's this? What's this one? Okay. So this is kind of a 12. I mean, this is kind of a groove, a swingy groove that might use for blues, right? All right. Cymbal hits might come at a weird spot. And the C7 for now. G7 and D7, C7. D7. Okay, that's a blues progression. That's 12 bars. All right, so let me see if I can create something here real quick. I'm gonna move this over. I don't need that. All right. I don't know what this is. 12 bars. Right? Looks like 12 bars to me. All right, so I need a piano. All right, so let me just 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a 9th chord. Ah, dang it. This is why you play it in MIDI. Why a non-piano player plays it in MIDI. Where was that? What did I do? Okay, but there's that. Oh, is that the 9th? No, this. Oh yeah, there's the 9th. Okay, so I can get rid of that. And then where did I mess up? Ba ba ba, 4, 5. Okay, so here's, I got the first 4 bars, pretty good. Okay, let me quantize that. Another reason you do it in MIDI. Then I had the G, no, the C for 2, and then that's where I messed up, going to the G. All right. So let me go back to the G chord. All right, let me try this. So the G chord I want is that one. I'm actually, there's no G in there, but you got a bass because he's going to do it. I'm going to have to swing it. There's this D, C, the G, and then back to D7. Okay, now, so I quantize it, but see the problem with that quantize is it's way too square. So I'm going to quantize it like, let's see, I'll swing it, maybe swing D, like a, let's see what that's pretty good. Maybe this, when in DAW's digital audio workstations, you have different swing amounts. I've got these options here when I can highlight all those notes, and then I can quantize it to a quarter note, I can quantize it to an 8th note, so everything will move to the nearest 8th note, everything will move to the nearest 16th note or whatever. Triplets, I got those options. And then I've got swings on the 16ths, and it just says swing A, swing B, swing C, and each one is a little bit further away. So swing A is barely just a little off, and then so I had it set to swing D, but I'm changing it to swing C. And I think I like swing D better. Okay. Yeah, that'll work better. And I'm going to have to do, now I'm just going to probably just do, like on the bass, I'll just do, are you guys tracking with me here? Sorry, I don't have my windows open. Come here for me. Spent 2 hours changing the clocks. All right, so I'm just gonna probably do bum ba bum ba bum ba bum bum. I'm not gonna do a walking bass line. I don't want. I want the groove that we're gonna, the jam track that we have here is gonna be. Oh, I may have to bounce this and put it up so you guys can practice to it. But so where's my bass? So something like that. obviously was late on that first note. So I'm going to quantize swing D. That's basically what we want. Okay, but that bass is too loud, I think, right? All right. Now let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. Now that I got this dialed in here, which is something I should have done before, but I've just been freaking busy. Now I'm also going to show you a trick. We talked about this before, but it's worth repeating. So look at the triads up there, okay? I mean, not the triads, the seventh chords, okay? The G7 is G, B, D, F. Actually, I'm really glad that I did the bass line the way I did it, because this will kind of play into this. Post what to Discord? Oh. Dang. Cold in Wisconsin. Let's see. All right. I will post a Discord link. Oh, post that. Oh, what I'll do is I'll probably upload it to YouTube, and then you guys can listen to it on YouTube. That way I can monetize it. I'll just say for live streaming lessons or something like that. If you want to turn it into an MP3 off of YouTube, I won't tell. What am I looking for? Oh, Discord. Okay, so I'm going to grab the Discord invite link here, and so and I'm going to set this to not expire. I think that works. Not sure, but yeah, the backing track I'll upload at some point to YouTube, and then you guys can jam to it there. But I'll make it like 10 minutes long or something, so you don't have to worry about it. But okay, so again, look at those right here over my, what shoulder is that? My right shoulder? Yeah, over my right shoulder here. But it's hard for me to point because it's really over here on my screen, so I have to think before I point. And I'm still not pointing. There, kind of hard to point. There we go. Those chords right here. Okay, see those seventh chords? 1, 3, 5, 7 in G, and then the 1, 3, 5, 7 in C7, and the 1, 3, 5, 7 D7. All right, all right. Okay, there's something called guide tones. If I can do this, let's see. Can I? Can I change that color? Underline. I can underline it. Weird. I don't see any change. I tried to underline the B in the G7 chord, but I don't see any difference. Okay, never mind that. But basically, the guide tones of a chord. You really, to have guide tones in a chord, you have to have a seventh chord at least. The guide tones are the third and the seventh. Okay, those are the guide tones. I call them that. I'm not sure why necessarily, but they are the most important tones and really the only necessary ones for you to play if you have a bass player. You don't ever really need to play the fifth. If the bass player's playing, because as we talked about, when you harmonize a G major scale, for example, the fifth is the same on all of them except for the seventh degree. So people naturally just hear a fifth. It's an overtone of every note. So you don't necessarily have to have the fifth in a chord. Well, also, you don't need to have the root in a chord if you have a bass player. Okay? So if we were just to play the guide tones for G7, you could get away with just playing this F note here and this B note here. Okay? That's the seventh, and that's the third right there. The B is the third, the F is the seventh. Okay? We can also play it down like here. We can play the B there and the seventh there, but a little muddy. That's better. Okay? You tracking with me here? So we just play two notes. I can just play, in fact, I can just loop the first bar and get rid of the piano. Here. Go up. B, F up here, or F, B. I want you to use these two. You could even do a thing where you could do hybrid picking, where you pluck the lower note with your pick and pluck the higher note with your second finger. Get a nice snap. Okay? All right. Well, what about the 4 chord? All right, so what are the guide tones in the 4 chord? Apparently there's a quiz on this. The guide tones on the 4 chord. Okay, the guide tones again are the 3rd and the 7th. So that would be E and B flat. Hey Holly, good to see you. So the E and B flat are right here. There's an E, so a 2nd fret of the 4th string and 3rd fret of the 3rd string. So there's the G7. Technically, like I said, this is all you need to play. And if you're looking for something to work on, if this is too easy for you, like I said, try hybrid picking. Pluck the bottom note with the pick and the top note with your finger. It's called hybrid picking. Very, very common in Nashville among country players, since I'm playing a telly. And then there's the C chord, okay? So G, C chord. Back to G chord and then C chord. Okay, so now I bracketed those first 2 bars of this blues progression. Hear it? There's the 4 chord. 1, 4. Here we go. Here's the 1 chord. Down fret. Hey Max. Reverse sip. Cool, huh? And again, it could be any inversion of these 2 notes. See, I'm just playing B and F, C, I'm sorry, B flat and E. E, F, B flat, E. But this, I like it. That's kind of the coolest place to play it. It's where the cool kids play it. Okay, so now we got the 1 and 4 chord. Well, that covers 10 bars of this 12-bar blues. Okay? Of a 12-bar blues. Okay. Now, where can I find... Okay, if I take... Okay, so I'm going to take the... I'm going to grab the bar, would be 9 and 10 of the blues. F, C. Actually, let's do D to G. That's so weird, though. Let me just show you. I'll do this. I'll do the D to the C, even though it's kind of weird. Okay, so The D7 guide tones are the 3rd and 7th still. So F sharp and C. So again, the guide tones of the G7, okay, and if it's going to be kind of weird, but I can do this, like B, F. Guide tones of these two are E and B flat. And then the guide tones here are F sharp and C. Okay. Now it's like kind of hard to look at. See, that's a little more confusing, but basically you get the idea here. Okay, so the D7 would be here. So the F sharp is there at the 4th fret of the 4th string, and the 5th fret of the 3rd string is the C. And that F sharp is the 3rd, and the C is the 7th. We go down here, same thing. When we go down to C, the C chord, we have the 3rd and the 7th. But when we go to the G chord, it's the 7th and the 3rd. So the order of the guide tones reverse themselves here between the G chord and the C and the D7 chord. That makes sense. Okay, so here's G, C, G, D7, G, C, G, D7, C7, G7. Okay. So we're going to follow this progression that's over here, over my left shoulder. And I can't point at it. I don't know how to do it. I'm not a weatherman. Okay. Let's see. So if I highlight, now I'm muting the piano for now, just so that we're going to kind of be the piano. That's kind of what we're doing. We're kind of taking on the role of being the rhythm instrument. There's a bass player, there's a drummer, and then we're going to be kind of the harmonic comping is another word for that. Okay. Oh, dang it. I gotta get my windows in order. Oh, no, I have to get this started. So here we go. There's the G. C. G. Getting that down to C. I'll try to give you a lot of warning here. Up to G. Up to D. Down to C. Up to G. D, sorry. I didn't give you a warning. It's G. That's the one chord. Second bar. Okay. G7. Down to C7. Second line of the blues. So over this hand is the chord progression. G7. Go up a fret. This way. Down 2 frets. Up a fret. Up a fret. Isn't that amazing how easy it is? And this also massively points out the subtle, or not so subtle differences between the 7th chord. I mean, you can turn it into a solo. I was doing was sliding in by 1 fret to the note. It's kind of a passing tone, leading tone, chromatic tone, neighboring tone. There's a lot of different names for that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3. Sorry. G. Last note, last chord. D7. Now back to the top of the progression. G7. Okay, so we're again for anybody just jumping in now. We're using guide tones to play a blues progression. Just the 3rd and 7th of each of the chords, and it creates this tritone here. Here's your F sharp and C of the D. Here's the E and the B flat of the C, and then here's the F and the B of the G7 chord. So it's cool that all the, they're just right there. Very, very simple. You can, if you only had 2 fingers like Django Reinhardt, you could do it. Okay, you could still play the blues with 2 fingers. And I like it, I just like it because it's if you've got a piano player, even if you don't, I mean, that totally sounded great just with the bass player and the drummer. Okay, it's all you need. Like I said, the bass player's playing the root, and if you want, in fact, a lot of times when you see guitar players that are playing bass parts and chords at the same time, it's pretty much what they're doing. They're playing the bass line, and on top they're putting the guide tones. So when you only have to keep 2 notes going, it's pretty easy to kind of get something going on below this. Okay, if you're only using up 2 fingers for that. If you only need 2 fingers for that, then you've got 2 other fingers that could do other work. You may have to be shifting things around, and it's not easy, but it's definitely, it makes it attainable. The other thing is, if you're playing with a piano player, this definitely makes more sense, because you're both trying to play chords, and it's like if you're going to be doing. Now, if you're playing with another guitar player, if it's just 2 guitar players and you're just jamming, then doing these big giant bar chords or these open, lots of distortion like I have, is your ticket. No, but basically my point is you don't need to have a big giant, big chord. You want to kind of create music, not a mashup. Okay. So let's see. Gosh, it's been an hour already. But one of the things to take away from this is that I'm going to show you Monday, I think, especially if I can get a chance to do some diagrams. I'd love to have some diagrams up here. A two-string snippet of a G Mixolydian scale, a C Mixolydian scale, and a D Mixolydian scale. And you'll notice that when you play those, because each one of those was 6 notes. When you play this G7 tritone here, you're playing 2 of the 6 notes. And actually, these are all 3 of the scales will use these 4 notes. It's only these inside notes here that change. Okay, so we're really playing right now. When we're doing these tritone chords, these little guide tone chords. we're playing, the part of the pentatonic that's going to be the changing part. I mean, not the pentatonic, the Mixolydian scale. Sorry. The bass, no, I was just playing whatever note I heard. There was nothing specific about that. I was doing stereotypical upright. I'm imagining an upright bass player, So what you can do in this situation is you can kind of write a bass line and try to get that G7 chord in there. Was it? What was I doing? Kind of weird. And over the C, I kind of went. Yeah, the bass playing in a blues context. I mean, that's a very jazzy blues kind of vibe. I mean, bass playing in a more of a rock blues or a blues thing might be, could be as simple as just playing the root. It could be a pattern. But a lot of times, bass players, they just kind of they'll do a lot like a. They basically are setting up the chord change. Probably because bass players have to deal with moronic guitar players that don't know how to play the blues. So bass players have to go, here comes the 4 chord. There you go. Good boy, I mean, if you play in a band with a very good bass player that knows how to telegraph changes, you don't have to know a single song. You just follow him. He's like, here you go. Oh, okay. And he's like, you're just like, you just follow him, and he's basically gonna pull you by your collar and get you to the next chord. So yeah, writing bass lines is usually have nothing to do with scales and has everything with getting you to that next, getting you to the next chord, however that is. Bass players love that half step. Well, everybody loves to hear that half step, that leading tone, right? So if I just play a G triad and then go back, so G, B, D, B, and those are the 4 beats, and my next chord is C. I'm right there, right next to C. So you can just do any 3 notes, and then you make sure the first note is the root of it, and then the last note is the leading tone to the next chord. So that's bass players can go. They can do anything. They can go. They can do anything they want as long as they hit the root on the downbeat and they hit the leading tone on the beat 4. You're good. It doesn't really matter. So. Yeah, God bless good bass players. Although if you're going to build a band, you always build it around a good drummer. You got to start with a good drummer, and then you go from there. Not a show-offy drummer, a good drummer. A good drummer isn't necessarily Neil Peart. I was never a Neil Peart fan. Although I love John Bonham. But John Bonham had a feel. Neil Peart, I don't know. Neil Peart. He and I probably would have gotten along fine. I couldn't stand Geddy Lee's voice, or I can't even think of the guitar player's tone. So I just never a Rush fan. All my friends that were Rush fans were generally good drummers. They weren't singers. Zeppelin fans are across the board: bass players, singers, drummers, and guitar players. I had a drummer friend. I'm still a friend. I didn't unfriend him. who never liked Ringo's playing, and he loved Neil Peart's. And we were in a band together for quite a while, and we would argue about, how he didn't think Ringo was a very good drummer. And I go, well, he wasn't a flashy, like massively educated drummer. But one thing I noticed about Ringo that really blew me away, and I understand that there are times, especially once they became a studio band and less a live band, that Paul either played drums, or he wrote the drums. He came up with the drum grooves that Ringo played, which of course would ultimately lead to problems, but in the short term led to really good drum patterns. Somebody asked John Lennon, what's it about playing with Ringo? What's it like playing with the best drummer in the world? And he said, Ringo's not even the best drummer in the band. John said that. John Paul Jones and John Bonham, the two of them together, unbelievable. And I'm touching my face so we can take a sip, I guess. So we're getting started here. We're kind of building what I would call a foundation of learning some scales, learning the Mixolydian scales that we're going to use. So I don't know that we need to go much further than this. This is a pretty good foundation thing. With really what I want you to do too is practice playing the blues. Remember we talked about this. You should be able to play that progression 10 times in a row without messing up. It doesn't have to be fast, although if you're good at it, you might as well do it fast. But the idea is to get that progression so ingrained in your head that you know what chord is coming up. Nothing surprises you. And that, see, if I put that there, you can't see it. But whoops. And so that's really paramount to playing in the blues. You want to know here, not here and not here. You want to know here when that C chord is coming up, and when that D chord is coming up, and when it goes back to the root, and when it goes back to the 4 chord. You want to know that you want to feel it without even thinking about it. It should not be. It should be as automatic as tying your shoe. You don't think about how to tie your shoe when you're tying a shoe. You just tie your shoe. The same thing with playing blues, and it's always twofold in this situation. If you can't play the blues without screwing it up, you're not going to have anyone jam with you. And if you can't play the blues without screwing it up, you're never going to be able to play through the blues without, comfortably. You're always going to feel like you're trying to figure out what's next. So that's so you get what if I upload this progression. I'm tempted to take the piano and just make it bass, but bass and drums. But I'll probably put the piano up too, because that'll help with the copyright thing. If I just put the bass and drums up, probably someone's copyrighted that exact pattern. So I'll get a takedown notice. So the yeah, so the what was I going to say? Oh, yeah. So probably Monday I will show you 6-note snippets of each of the 3 scales that we're going to learn. Ultimately, we're going to learn all 3 scales here in the 2nd position. We may have to move up a little bit, like on C. We may move up to the 3rd position so our pinky can get the 6th fret. But the G7 mostly is there. We have to shift once for that. The D7 is completely there, I think. Yeah. It's just the G major scale. G major scale that we learned the first day. So, okay. So that's what we're going to try to tackle. Well, no, we'll probably maybe Wednesday we'll hit that, or Friday next week after the election, which everybody's dying. I'm sure, Gary, you're tired of ads because Wisconsin is I get a lot of ads here. We get a lot of ads here too. I can't believe how many ads are in California, because it's not really technically a battleground state. But Wisconsin sure is, so you're getting a lot of ads. But it'll be, hopefully the dust will be settled by next Wednesday or Friday, and we'll know. But anyway, the yeah, no, exactly. I agree, Gary. Turn off everything. And I always say it matters far less on your life who's in the White House than how you treat your spouse, your kids, your parents, your neighbors, your coworkers, your friends. That's going to have a huge impact on your life. But who the heck is whoever's sitting in the White House? Trust me, it's not going to, on your daily satisfaction in life, really not going to have that much impact. So I tend to get philosophical every 4 years. Big picture kind of stuff. Yeah, and then I don't know. I think Leo. You follow me on Instagram. You saw the picture I posted. So Monday, last Friday I got a text saying to come into the studio. It's typically the studio that Justin Bieber works at, for a vibe session, and I didn't know what that meant. So I didn't assume it was Justin. It was Justin's people that reached out to me, but it wasn't Justin. And so I went in, and there were all these people there, and I'm like, oh, okay. I didn't know if I was playing on a track, if I was going to be writing. I didn't know what. And it was Justin. We're talking, basically with people that he asked for by name, including me, about maybe a dozen people. Major producers. Skrillex was there. Rodney Jerkins, who just produced everybody, was one of the people there. Major, who's done a lot of producing. Nasri Atwa, who if you're familiar with the band Magic, a couple of years ago they had that song that hit. Why'd you have to be so rude? Kind of a reggae that vibe. That's Nasri. He's the lead singer for that group. But he also wrote a bunch of Justin's early hits. And then a bunch of top line writers. Harv, who is Justin's music director. DJ Tay, who has been Justin's DJ, record DJ at his concerts since day one. I think he was telling me, he would, like, before they didn't even know what they were doing. When they were doing shows, they would just show up and do a show, and it would just get in chaos. Back when Justin was like 14, 15 years old. And of course, Justin was there, and some other people, some people on Pooh Bear, other people were on kind of webcams. And we just had a meeting for about an hour and a half, and then we listened to some music and got a vibe for what's coming next. And then basically, so that's kind of the idea is that, so I was there, my gear's still at the studio. I was there Tuesday, all day Tuesday, and I'm going back today. That's the plan, unless I get a text saying no. Although I did notice that they were there last night. A lot of those guys were there last night. So, but most of the top line people. So Monday and Tuesday, I came up with a lot of hook ideas that they started writing to. So, I've been doing this all my life, and it's, I don't know if any of the hooks that I started are going to get to that stage. Although the first hook we did on Monday, I can't play it. Sorry. I wrote, and we spent the whole day on it and built a whole song around it. And then Skrillex took it and took it to his studio, so he's going to work his magic on it. So hopefully that could come out and make the record, but we'll see. But Skrillex, if he's going to spend that kind of time on it, if he's going to spend real time on it, it's he's taking it serious. It must be a pretty good idea. And so, I mean, Skrillex, I think the two biggest hits that Justin has had were both Skrillex produced tracks. The last record was more personal and very family, very small group of people, and I was privileged to be brought into that. And I know a lot of you are going, Justin Bieber, yeah, he's got 150 million followers on Instagram. That's just like, you can't even fathom how huge that is. I don't know if Taylor Swift may be beyond him as far as that goes, because she's been doing a lot more projects than he has. But that's huge, and he is such a sweet kid. I really like him. He's such a good kid. Oh, and Judah Smith was there. I don't know if you know who Judah Smith is, but Judah Smith was a pastor. It's all in the photos that he posted, so everybody knows who was there. I'm in those pictures that Justin posted. So it was pretty amazing. And, to be included in that group of, like I joked on my Instagram page and my Facebook page, I said, I was the only one in the room I'd never heard of. I don't have any of the credits that any of those people have, really, to be honest. No, I don't have any hits, which I should never admit, but that's just the truth. I have a lot of songs on records, but no singles. So. And the pop stuff is, does not pay my mortgage. It's like icing on the cake. But if I had a hit, could pay off a house. So, plus the subsequent work that would come from that. If you have a number one hit, and people are willing to pay to have you on their project, then that's when you get a manager and let them deal with it and get you as much money as they can. So that's what's been happening this week, and I'm not probably going to have any hook that does this. Yeah, I'll tell you, it's 100% God. It's like I could not connive this. I couldn't force any of this to happen. And the fact that, I'm 59 years old, I'm literally probably 20 plus years older than, except for Rodney. Rodney is probably close to my age, but pretty much older than, but Rodney's got he produced tracks for Michael Jackson, back in, did he produce on Thriller? I don't know if he produced on Thriller, but Rodney Jerkins is a pedigree like you wouldn't believe. And super nice guy. Everyone there was, it was like a men's Bible study. It was like it was a very, very good time, and everybody shared something, and it was really, really cool. It's not, clearly it's God working in behind the scenes to get me involved in something like this. And I'm really good. The thing is that the great thing about that is one of the things that I think really, really helped me in my career, and is when I actually started making money in this business, was when I realized that I'm a great starter and a lousy finisher. I am not a record producer. I used to try to do everything. I would write the songs, I would record the songs, I would mix the songs, and I really am good at a couple things, but nobody's good at everything. And so what I like to do is I like to partner. Skrillex is a perfect example. In fact, we're going to be getting together soon. I'm going to be going down to his studio to do some tracks, to do some other stuff, just the two of us. With his camp, maybe Bieber related, maybe completely just unrelated. But Skrillex is a finisher. That guy can make a smash. These top line people. The top line is the melody and the lyrics. I mean, I was there when they were writing top lines, and I have, oh, what about this turn of phrase, or what about this word instead of that word? You know, they're always looking for what's the better word, what's a better way to say this than that, and I'm good at that kind of stuff. But I don't, I'm my pop lyrics, my pop melody ideas are going to be more based in the '80s than they are today, and so that's why younger people are really good at writing. I mean, I've worked with Julia Michaels, and she's great. She wrote the top line on "Sorry." She's a great top line writer. She wrote one of the best top lines I've ever heard on one of my songs. She wrote such a great top line. Um, and she started out as a poet. She was a 17-year-old poet, and she got into songwriting. And she had like a #1 hit at 17. I was like, are you kidding me? And so, you know, that's where, you know, I can come up with a really cool thing to write a hook over, or to write a top line on. And that's kind of why they bring me in. Is I just like, okay, Tom, give us an idea to start. Give us a start. Here's a start. Let's do this, you know, and that's what I do. And so I like that role. And once I realized that I'm a good starter and I need to work with finishers, that was when, you know, like for example, when I wrote a ton of music for Let's Make a Deal. I mean, Let's Make a Deal helped me get my kids through college and bought me cars. Um, that was partnering with a guy that was a really good engineer, and he played drums, and so I played guitars and keys and program, you know, bass, you know, play bass. Sometimes we would hire a bass player, but for the most part, I did all the guitars, keys, and writing, and he played the drums and made it sound like a freaking record. We split everything 50-50, and we were getting major spins on network television every single day of the week. And that brought in a lot of money. Um, and so um, uh, that was one of the first things I ever did that where I was actually playing the role I think made to play. Prior to that, when I had bands and we did records, and I would write the lyrics, I'd write the melodies, and I would have singers sing them or whatever. Those things never went anywhere because it just, you know, I was trying to do too much. So let's see, what is it? Modest man. I'm a modest mouse. Yeah, everybody seemed to respect me. I kept disparaging myself, and they kept telling me to shut up. I kept joking about being the white guy, you know. And, you know, I'm a little, I'm a little excited, so my guitar is always a little ahead. So I always take after I record it, I always like move it a little bit so it sits back in the pocket a little better because I'm always like on top of the beat and you know, to groove, you want it to kind of lay back. You know, if I'm playing live, I can lay back, but in the studio, I tend to kind of play right on the click, and that tends to be a little too. There's like nervous energy in that, and if you just take it back like 10 milliseconds, which is a very, very minute amount, but it's enough to make it feel like the guitar player is relaxed. So, but I was joking about that. It was like going, yeah, you got a white guy here, remember? So they don't like it when I say it. Yeah, Pooh Bear was there on video. I don't know where he was. He may have been home, or I'm not sure. And there was somebody else there I didn't know on video. Someone named John. I'm not sure it was. Scooter wasn't there, or he might have been there watching, but he might have been watching. But there were a few other people watching on the video, you know, on the Zoom thing. But I couldn't see who it was. Anyway, yeah, it was a great day. And then the next day I got a lot of hooks started. And then, like I said, I'm going back today. I'm going to try to come up with some more stuff or whatever they need me to do. If they need me to put guitars down or whatever. Has anybody seen Bonnie or Leah? No. No. It seemed like there was something going on with Bonnie, and they had to get back to work, or I'm not sure. I think the move to 9 o'clock messed them up. So let's see. What else is going on? Yeah, Leo. Yeah, definitely think. Um, Definitely think it's going to be a very different record than this last one. This last one, like I said, was very personal, very R&B, very urban sounding, very minimalistic, um, and so I think probably the next record's going to be much more pop smashes. So it's just I think it's just natural to kind of go back and forth between those two things for any artist. I think I see a lot of artists do that, um, and Harry Styles. I kind of see Harry Styles do that. Selena, um, uh, Camilla's not quite there yet, but Ariana does. And Ariana's managed by Scooter as well. So Ariana is a Scooter artist. I have not met Ariana. I did something with Camilla. I taught her a lesson, but I have not written anything with Camilla. Cabela. Um, but anyway, I'm going to take off because I've got to do some stuff before I head in. I've got to bring some fun toys to the studio today, some different sounds. So I want to make sure I do bring some of my weird things today, and that way we can have fun. I can have fun creating sounds. That's kind of the main thing with the pop stuff. Really trying to create something that hasn't been done before. That's really in my experience. I always say that when I'm writing, I write all the time, and when I'm writing music, and if it's derivative, that goes for my TV stuff, because the TV shows, they want something that's kind of reminiscent of Tom Petty or reminiscent of swamp blues or something. But if I come up with something I've never done before, then that is typically reminiscent of, that's not reminiscent of anything. So pop records should sound like something new. So, well, I don't want to say yet. Am I using an amplifier? Yes, I'm using my rig, my guitar rig. I have my mobile rig. So yeah, but we're taking direct as well. Generally, ETA was just when I did ETA. That was done in Logic. That was guitar rig. Yeah. Yeah, let me post that link, Chelsea, so you can, if you don't have it already. This should not expire. Paste. So there's a Discord link, and that is a group of people that are generally in the live chat here, it's all a community of support and not trolling, and trolls get removed. And the idea is, Bruce, the idea is that if you have questions, I'm not there very often. Occasionally, but I will post any diagrams or any sheets of paper that I create and scan. I will post them there so that you can have them, download them, print them, put them in your own Word documents, whatever, every week. So hopefully Monday, if I have a chance, I will do some between now and Monday. I will do some diagrams for this. Chelsea, do I suggest start with acoustic? I started on acoustic. It ended all right. I think most people probably start on acoustic generally. If you look at pictures of any guitar player as a kid, they have an acoustic guitar in their hand. and acoustic guitar is a little harder to play than electric, and acoustic guitar doesn't require an amplifier, so it's a one purchase thing. You don't need an amplifier to play electric; it's just not going to be very loud. And so acoustic's a little harder than electric to play. The strings can be harder to push down. There'd be a little bit more work, a little bit, but all that does is make your hands stronger so that when you do pick up electric for the first time, you're like, whoa, I like this. So if I play acoustic for 3 days in a row and then I pick up an electric, I'm like, oh yeah, I am a monster. I'm Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'm strong. Yes, thank you. Yeah, that's right. It's our anniversary today, 33 years. Crazy. I will, yeah, I'll be back. I'll be back Monday, Lord willing. And if not, I will try to go on Discord and say, hey, I'm not going to be able to do Monday. I will also probably post on the community of YouTube, which some of you see, and also on the Facebook page, which some of you get notifications. I don't post very much on Facebook, which is probably a good, if you have Facebook notifications, it'll show up in your notifications thing when I do post. So maybe, check one of those before Monday, just in case you're trying to set aside time for this live stream, okay? Justin, when Tom posts links, you can use, yeah, you can use that link right there. I posted it's above, I posted it right before Bruce said post the link. So it's right there. Let's see, what else? Oh yeah, Max, you write on acoustic. I write on both, yeah. I basically what I do is I get a vibe, a sound that inspires me, and then I start going from there. Starts with a tone that's inspiring. Thank you, Bob. And yeah, Jan was late to the party. That's all right, Jan. We'll talk later, okay? But God bless you guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I will. Sorry about if you're watching this and you're seeing a million ads. That's YouTube's doing. I will go in there and delete all those ads and put one in every 30 minutes instead of every 3 minutes or 2 minutes or whatever it is that they do. It's every 2 minutes, I think. Literally, I'm deleting 20 ads per hour on that. But I can't do it now because as soon as I hit end stream, it takes a few hours to process, and then chances are a few hours from now I'm busy doing something else and I'm not near a laptop. So I apologize. So usually I try to get to it within 24 hours if I can. All right. And I do make money when you see all those ads. So I guess it's to my advantage to leave them, but I'm not going to do that to you. So, but you can, if you want, you can always click on the Amazon links. If you're getting ready to do some Amazon Christmas shopping, click on one of those Amazon links, and then I get, I don't know, anywhere from like 2 to 5% of your shopping. You spend $500 Christmas shopping, and I make $25. So, or it could make as much as $25. So that's always a way to kind of support what I'm doing here. And then, you can continue on Discord for after stream banter. Exactly. And people post favorite videos or things that they're working on. People post pictures of themselves. I think there's, did we set up a separate channel for that? I forget. A separate tab for pictures. Anyway, Wes, we can talk about, that's kind of what we're talking about with the Mixolydian scale. So stay tuned for, come back on Monday and you will see. Now look, Tom is looking like Drake Holy. I don't know who Drake Holy is. So Wes, Grawl, come back Monday and I will, we're going to start with a snippet. I take it slow. Okay, you can watch this video and you can see what guide tones are. Those notes up there, I used guide tones. So we're gonna do a 2-string snippet of 3 different Mixolydian scale. Okay, and because it's actually really cool the way we're gonna do it because it'll help you really point out the differences between the chords and play through the chords a little bit better. I think. Okay, and now I have to look up who Drake Holy is. But anyway. I'll talk to you guys later. God bless you. Bye-bye.